Hey, all right. You ready? All right. Hey, how you doing? My name is DeAndre. I've been involved with October 22nd right since its inception back in 1996. I myself am a revolutionary and a communist, but in no way does that reflect everybody's understanding that's worked in or began October 22nd. But that's part of what I've become through understanding this epidemic of police murder. Back in 1996 or 1997, probably a year after this October 22nd was founded nationally, locally, myself, Danny Garcia, one of the first families we met was Cornelius Hall, and this old black artist from Hunters Point, Bayview, named Lavorius Moore, and some other people got the idea of really demonstrating the number of lives that were lost by doing a Stolen Lives wall, which initially was intended to be a couple of small walls like tombstones. Well, as we got into it more, it became larger and larger and larger. And as we heard from other October 22nd chapters and other research that we've done around the country, particularly by Karen Sari, who was the author of the Stolen Lives book, it became thousands of people. And it was at that point that we started to realize that what we really had no idea before about the national epidemic of police murders, young people, men and women, mainly but not entirely black and Latino. Most of them had committed no crime, certainly no crime that required the death penalty on the spot. And it became clear that this was a national epidemic, and it had been hidden from view. I want to read just very quickly something from Bob Avakian's book, Basics. The role of the police is not to serve and protect the people. It is to serve and protect the system that rules over the people, to enforce the relations of exploitation and oppression, the conditions of poverty, misery, and degradation into which the system has cast people and is determined to keep people in. The law and order the police are about, with all their brutality and murder, is the law and order that enforces all this oppression and madness. Now, through the Stolen Lives Wall, we were determined to change all that, and this wall was a way to both honor the precious lives that had been stolen from us and from the families, and a way to expose the magnitude of these crimes to millions, to build a collective struggle of all the families and friends and acquaintances reaching out to society as a whole to put an end to these outrages. And though we have had an effect in bringing this to light to many millions of people in this country, and we have scored some victories, the honest and brutal fact is that the epidemic of the system targeting, imprisoning, and murdering our youth and getting away with it is increasing faster than ever. Now, this is all a deliberate plan of the system. This is not an accident. A slow genocide that began with the founding of this country on slavery and stealing of native lands that could become a fast genocide unless we stop it. I mean, you're talking about massive incarceration, 2.4 million people living behind bars, with 80,000 subjected to the most inhumane, torturous, solitary confinement. The United States with 5% of the world's population, but holding 25% of the world's prisoners. And the increase of women prisoners is 800% since 1980. The endless brutality and chain of stolen lives by cops, a steady march of thousands of names, from Anthony Baez and Gerald Hall, through Sean Bell and Amadou Diallo, to Oscar Grant, Ramarley Graham, and Trayvon Martin. What kind of a system is this, in which you could consider yourself lucky to go to prison, possibly for the rest of your lives, rather than be shot down in the street by a judge, jury, and executioner wearing a badge? What kind of a system is this? We've got to step up our fight and build massive, and by massive I mean societal resistance. If we don't have that, there will not be any hope of changing anything. And if we don't fight, we will never be able to learn about the system we are fighting, and who are our friends and who are our enemies, and what kind of lies and tricks and diversions the system always has for us to get us to channel our struggles down the dead ends, or look at things as incident by incident, rather than the overwhelming workings of the system. And as we fight the power, and this is what I've learned, I've come to understand very, very concretely that the system will just keep doing what it's doing unless it's swept away. And that's what I've learned through all my work around police murders. Now, what do I mean about the system? For me, it's the system of capitalism and imperialism, and which is necessary to keep this system working, to control the world and control the population here in this country. They remember the 60s with the masses rising up, particularly led by black people. They hate and fear the masses of people on the bottom. So one thing that really struck me is that what Bob Avakian talked about, this is this mass incarceration is really like trying to target people and round them up, like counterinsurgency before there's even an insurgency. That's how much they're afraid of people on the bottom saying no more. The system and its effects can be seen in the barrios, where people are occupied by the pigs. It's seen in the projects, where oppressed youth are chased into their own apartment by the occupying force and shot dead, unarmed, by those claiming to protect and serve. From flooding our neighborhoods with drugs, to the U.S. flooding the world with death squads and poison and drone strikes against the families of Afghanistan, which Obama deems suspicious. Does that sound familiar? Nothing, in my opinion, short of revolution, socialism, and ultimately communism, which overturns this whole system, this whole setup, can change this. Now imagine, if you can, a society where the government had your back instead of shooting you in the back. Imagine where the police, which would be the people's police, would sooner take a bullet themselves than harm one of the people. That's the kind of system that is possible to bring into being. Now I feel that very fortunate to have a leader that is leading those who refuse to live in the same old way, who refuse to accept being victims of this cruel systems, but rather who want to be emancipators of all humanity, free of oppression, where every person is precious, where everybody is unleashed to their full potential as human beings. I invite you to get to know this leader, Bob Avakian of the Revolutionary Communist Party, and I would like to end with a quote again from Basics, which I think is very important. No more generations of our youth, here and all around the world, whose life is over, whose fate has been sealed, who have been condemned to an early death or a life of misery and brutality, whom the system has destined for oppression and oblivion even before they are born. I say no more to that. So join us and build this fight to huge proportions and help turn this system into a system which benefits all of humanity.